Canada has just confirmed the suspension of U.S. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra after a shocking and embarrassing diplomatic scandal. His public outburst toward Ontario's representative wasn't just rude, it was an insult to all Canadians. An ambassador is supposed to show respect and build trust, not use anger and disrespect in front of officials. What happened crossed every line of professionalism. Canadians everywhere are demanding to send the ambassador back, a humiliation for the United States and a moment of pride for Canada for standing up for itself.
We begin on that profanity-filled rant by U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra. Hoekstra was at a high-profile event in Ottawa Monday meant to celebrate the Canada-U.S. relationship. But sources tell CBC News the ambassador had some choice words for Ontario's trade representative about the province's anti-tariff ad. The CBC's Ashley Burke joins me now with more on this. So, Ashley, this is the talk of the town. Tell us what happened exactly at this event.
Yeah, David, CBC News learned that the U.S. ambassador to Canada went on a tirade aimed at Ontario's trade minister. A witness says that he could be heard swearing, using the F word, and mentioning Doug Ford, his name, and that it appears that Pete Hoekstra was upset about this Ontario ad, this anti-tariff ad that's been playing in the U.S. We've been reporting on it a lot.
Yes.
It's the same one. It's the one that uses former Republican President Ronald Reagan's voice. It's the one that angered Donald Trump to the point where he says he was terminating trade talks and threatened a new additional 10% tariff on Canadian goods. And this latest incident involving the U.S. ambassador, as you mentioned, it happened here in Ottawa on Monday at this really high-profile event that's attended by a lot of people in Ottawa and D.C. And normally at the event, there is a joint toast with the U.S. and Canada's ambassador, where they deliver some remarks. And this year, sources say just one person was up doing that speech this year and that toast, and that was the Canadian side, just showing you how tense the whole situation is right.
What's happening right now between Canada and the United States is more than just another trade hiccup. It's a breakdown in basic diplomacy. The U.S. ambassador Pete Hoekstra has managed to turn a business dispute into an international embarrassment. Reports say he used profane, aggressive language toward Ontario's representative in Washington at a public event, and now Canadians everywhere are calling for him to be sent home. That's not just social media noise. It's a clear sign that people are tired of Washington's arrogance. Hoekstra's outburst wasn't just rude, it was unprofessional and reckless. He accused Ontario's government of election interference over an ad quoting Ronald Reagan, an ad about free trade, not politics. Instead of handling it quietly through diplomatic channels, he threw a tantrum and then announced that trade talks with Canada are stopped and that he sees no way back. That's a serious blow to cooperation on aluminum, steel, and energy, all because one ambassador couldn't keep his temper.
I did apologize to the president. President was offended by the act, or by the ad rather, and it's not something I would have done.
Prime Minister Mark Carney referring to this ad, commissioned by Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who released it as a message to Americans against Trump's tariffs.
Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down.
The controversial ad, using Ronald Reagan's 1987 speech denouncing tariffs, led to a freeze in trade talks between Canada and the U.S. after Trump blasted it and cut off communications with Ottawa. Carney says Ford did show him the ad before its release, but he advised against using it.
Did you inform Mr. Ford that this is something that you do not want to go forward with?
Yes.
What's even more frustrating is that Mark Carney had already apologized for that same ad, making it clear Canada values dialogue and mutual respect. Carney didn't bow. He simply acknowledged the tension, took responsibility, and moved forward. That's leadership, but Washington still reacted with hostility. This is what separates Carney's diplomacy from Trump's playbook. Carney builds bridges, Trump's people burn them. The contrast couldn't be sharper. While Carney continues forging trade deals with South Korea, Japan, and other allies, the U.S. is busy picking fights over television ads. The American ambassador's behavior only confirms what many Canadians already believe. The U.S. has become unpredictable, petty, and reactive, while Canada is staying calm, professional, and focused on its long-term interests. At the end of the day, this isn't about one insult, it's about values. Diplomacy relies on respect, tone, and maturity, all things Carney has shown in abundance, and Hoekstra clearly lacks. So when Canadians say, send him home, they're not just reacting emotionally. They're defending the principle that partnerships must be based on respect, not intimidation.
Globe and Mail has a piece that speaks about Ambassador Hoekstra, to use a blunt phrase, cursing out your Ontario representative in the United States at a meeting. What do you say to that? This was related to your advertisement related to Donald Reagan.
Yeah.
What's your response to Ambassador Hoekstra's words?
Come on, Ambassador. He's a guy, you know something? I like him. Pete, you got to call Dave up and apologize. It's simple. You know, the cheese slipped off the cracker. I get it. You're ticked off. But call the guy up because you're a good guy, and Dave's my champion. The guy is just instrumental in these trade deals down in Washington. And, you know, something, people get hot. They get heated. I get heated sometimes. But just call the guy up and bury the hatchet because the ambassador's a good guy, actually. I love Dave. I like the ambassador, so he knows what to do. Come on, Pete, you've been around for before Moses. Call the guy up and apologize. Let's start getting back on track.
Doug Ford's reply to Pete Hoekstra was exactly what many Canadians were thinking: direct, unapologetic, and rooted in common sense. Ford didn't sugarcoat it. He told the U.S. ambassador to simply call Dave and apologize because that's what real leadership looks like, taking responsibility, not throwing tantrums. Ford called Hoekstra's behavior unbecoming of an ambassador, and he's absolutely right. When a diplomat loses control in public, swears at another country's representative, and then blames a harmless Reagan ad for it, it's not diplomacy, it's immaturity. Ford made it clear Canada won't roll over anymore. For years, the Trump administration has treated Canada like a junior partner, threatening tariffs, insulting leaders, and using trade as a weapon. But this time, Ford stood his ground. He said what millions of Canadians have felt: you can't keep attacking our industries, our jobs, and our dignity and expect us to stay quiet. His frustration is justified. The U.S. keeps calling Canada a 51st state, trying to drag auto and manufacturing jobs south, all while pretending to be an ally. And here's the irony: the tariffs Trump keeps imposing are hurting Americans themselves. Ford reminded everyone of that Reagan quote: "A tariff on Canada is a tax on the American people." He's right. When the U.S. raises tariffs on Canadian steel, energy, or aluminum, American factories pay more. American inflation rises, and American workers lose jobs. The U.S. has now lost 78,000 manufacturing jobs over 5 months, and still, they keep doubling down on failed policies. But Carney is not letting Canada break. Instead, he is building it even stronger than before.
When you're set to spend over $20 billion on something, you probably want to take it for a test ride, and that's what Mark Carney is doing here at this massive South Korean shipyard. Hanwha is one of the 2 companies that is in the final bidding to replace Canada's decrepit fleet of submarines, and they say they can get it done quickly. They're promising they can deliver 4 KS-3 submarines to Canada by 2035, if a deal is signed by 2026. The first one would arrive in 2032, and that entire fleet of 12 submarines would be in Canada by 2043, according to the company. That's the big advantage the South Koreans say they have, because the ship is operational and it's in the water in this over 5 square kilometer shipyard that is currently producing the same sub for the South Korean Navy, which Carney toured today.
That's why Mark Carney's strategy looks smarter by the day. Carney didn't argue or retaliate. He did what real statesmen do. He stayed calm, apologized for the ad misunderstanding, and moved forward with substance, not noise. While Washington wastes time blaming Ontario over a TV ad, Carney is quietly signing new trade deals with South Korea, Japan, and China. He's diversifying Canada's alliances because he knows the U.S. under Trump can't be trusted to act rationally. This is what separates Canada's leadership from the chaos in Washington. Trump's diplomats throw fits at galas. Carr's team builds partnerships that actually create jobs. The U.S. acts like a jealous ex, angry that Canada is moving on. While Carney is already focused on the future, he's rebuilding Canada's global reputation as a stable, reliable trading partner, something investors and allies deeply respect. So when Ford tells the ambassador to apologize and move on, he's not just defending one official, he's defending Canada's right to stand tall. The U.S. can keep shouting, but Canada's answer is clear. We'll keep doing business with countries that believe in respect and fairness, because Carney understands something Trump's team never will. Diplomacy isn't about who yells the loudest. It's about who stays standing when the shouting stops. Hoekstra's meltdown, Trump's tariffs, and Washington's finger-pointing all prove one thing. Canada was right to start building a future that doesn't depend on American approval. Carney's steady hand is guiding that shift toward a global Canada, not a bullied one. Mark Carney just drew the line in the sand, and this time it's not about Trump, it's about Canada's future. His new message couldn't be clearer. It's time to stop depending on the United States. For decades, Canada's economy was tied so tightly to the U.S. that every American political tantrum sent shockwaves across our borders. Tariffs, trade threats, and diplomatic meltdowns. We've lived through all of it. And now, with Trump's chaos returning to Washington's agenda and his ambassador publicly insulting Canadian officials, Carney is saying what most Canadians already feel: enough. He's not wasting time reacting to every insult or tariff rumor. He's building something bigger, a Canada that stands on its own. His plan is bold and unapologetic. Cut wasteful federal spending, invest in what matters, and rebuild national strength through Canadian hands and materials. He's betting on Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum, and Canadian technology to power a new era of independence. Right now, only 40% of the steel we buy is made in Canada. Carney wants to flip that number. He's building ports, electricity grids, and housing infrastructure that will unlock Canadian industry from coast to coast. Think of it as a modern-day street. Lawrence Seaway moment, another generation. Defining project that puts thousands to work and generates trillions in trade. While Trump's allies rant about ads and tariffs, Carney is already signing deals with South Korea, Japan, and China, ensuring that our products reach new markets, even if Washington slams its doors. This isn't political theater, it's strategic survival. He's doubling Canada's exports outside the U.S. and building direct pipelines of opportunity across Asia and Europe. Carney's leadership is calm, deliberate, and deeply patriotic. He doesn't flinch when the U.S. ambassador loses his temper. He doesn't tweet threats or complain about disrespect. Instead, he quietly rewires Canada's economy so that our success doesn't depend on the mood swings of a foreign president. That's real strength, not the loud, empty kind we see south of the border. Trump's America keeps raising tariffs, calling Canada names, and pretending we're the 51st state. But Carney's message to every Canadian is simple. We don't need permission to prosper. He's cutting the cord, not out of anger, but out of vision. The U.S. might be our neighbor, but it's no longer our lifeline. This is the new Canada Carney is building, confident, self-reliant, and ready to compete globally. He's betting on Canadian workers, Canadian materials, and Canadian innovation. He's putting the country back in control, something Trump's government never understood. When Carney says, "It's our country, it's your future, we're giving it back to you," it's not just a slogan, it's a declaration of independence from decades of U.S. economic dependence. While Trump shouts, Carney builds. While Washington burns bridges, Canada builds ports. And that's exactly why he's winning, not just for today, but for generations of Canadians who are finally ready to bet on themselves.